Alright guys, thanks for tuning in iCup TV. You'll be your epic and awesome fun caster Fitz here. You guys are tuning in iCup Can League Season 20, week number 3 between SAS and Disturbed Minds. Now competing for, let's figure this, Disturbed Minds, it will be the Teal Terran Pitbull spawning at the 9 o'clock position, and spawning at the 5 or 6 o'clock will be the Yellow Terran SAS' skzlime, and the map is Icarus or Icarus, whatever way. I think we see Amir saying it is
it's Icarus, the man who flew too close to the sun and his wings fell off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know the myth now. I'm trying to remember. But I've never actually casted this map before, nor has Amir, and I'm just trying to figure out this map. Kind of. I mean, your main's on the high ground. It's fairly big. It's the same template as or map palette as Circuit Breaker.
Especially in the central map locations. That should be interesting to fight in.
I wonder if it's actually going to be utilized just because it's close by
it's not
ground.
It's
so
not cross spawn at all.
Yeah, so it's I'm not quite sure if we're going to actually see this area, but talking about it, your natural is pretty easy. It looks a lot like Circuit Breaker in a way with the natural expansion, but that shouldn't be really that hard to hold off. Outside, there's kind of like 2 angles here, so there's a ramp out here, and then into the main area. So that's pretty much the map, and then like a third's kind of way off over here, which actually seems pretty easy to hold off here. And
it would be very wise to seize the far corner part of the map, because then no one would suspect you were there, and you could probably get a third base going pretty quickly and supply yourself very well. I think the earliest major aggression we're going to see is when each of them tries to take a third expand. They're probably going to take the ones that are closer to the enemy, and then they're going to be fighting over them, quite frankly, because they're too close.
Yeah, and I wasn't quite sure. Well, I'm not quite sure if this barracks is just going to be lifted off for scouting information, because it just looked like it was going to be a proxy, but with the gas, I don't think it's going to be anything kind of crazy. They're going to be going for fast factory, which is standard TVT stuff, and we're also seeing Pitbull going in the complete opposite direction where his opponent is, and his opponent's actually getting a nice quick scout off, making sure that there isn't kind of crazy cheese or shenanigans going down, and yeah.
Well, the advantage that
Yellow skzlime, and then Pitbull's purple. No, it's fine.
Purple.
It's TVT or not teal.
Yes, teal. Well, the advantage of Pitbull is that since he has scouted out that area, he knows he's not there, so he can probably get a third expand going there. And since skzlime has, however you pronounce that, has discovered his main base, he will not be searching up top because, well, quite frankly, he doesn't have to because he's found his enemy. So he may not see a third expand coming from up top. So that could play into Pitbull's advantage late game, but we shall see.
And, I also just want to point out that the micro coming out of this one Marine coming out of Pitbull was pretty, I wish I could do that in Brood War, but even I'm pretty half decent at micro. I couldn't quite do all that.
Yes,
nice
I can see
micro.
why they call him Pitbull. He's a very aggressive micro player, just like a Pitbull.
Yeah, and there we go. There we see the barracks being lifted off, and like you were saying about the expansion timings, positioning of expand right here, skzlime here is, or slime, we can't call him lime, no, lime, we're going to call him lime. We'll call him lime. Lime is probably not going to want to take his third here, just because he'd be expanding to his opponent, which means it would be pretty bad, because also keep in mind, TVT, traditional TVT, at least of what I remember, opening-wise, it'll be a two factory into a 2-port, or 1 factory into 2-port, or 2 factory into 1 port, and you get raid that, so this is going to be so... if we're going to see Pitbull go for that build, or it looks like maybe 1 starport or 1 port, one Rids could just rain terror over this if they was going for a quick third, which I don't think you would see that often, but we'll see. We'll see. And then at the same time, though, we're seeing Pitbull getting a little lucky where he can take his third pretty quickly, whereas it's not far off, and he should be able to easily defend it. But Vultures are going to be making their way into the natural right here, and there's only Marines to defend here, surprisingly. We just have a lot of Marines here.
This is where we will really test Pitbull's microing ability.
And yeah, I'm not really a firm believer in Marines can really out micro Vultures as they're faster and outrange them.
That's
without stem.
Yes, perhaps, but I don't see why the vultures are being more aggressive because they only have like 4 marines.
Yeah, the issue though is the 4 marines can start doing. I mean, 4 marines can do a good amount of damage, and they're going to be attacking up a ramp, which means they have a 50 or 25% miss rate when they're attacking up the ramp.
Good point. Good point.
But at the same time, though, we're seeing though. I want to say Pitbull's going for more an aggressive standpoint here because we saw the double
waste of a barracks right there.
It should be able to make it out of there, I think. But we saw double upgrades for Vulture upgrades, so it looks like you might see Maz Vulture run by.
We're seeing a very aggressive strategy from Pitbull, which you know makes sense because of his name, Pitbull.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite remarkable how calmly and he dealt with that. I mean, he did not halt production as you see a lot of players do. As soon as they see the sort of like an expand into their base with a barracks or a proxy, it's just like, or is it a proxy or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's just lifting it off. Yeah.
People forget they need to play the game. They forget they need to increase their unit production, and he dealt with it very calmly. He continued to produce units, and he just, you know, he knew that his Marines would be able to scare it off, and that shows a lot about the player.
Yeah, and you know, well, there's 2 things actually. Because number 1 is barracks is gonna die, and the problem is he's not gonna be able to put down any more factories, which is kind of crucial in TVT. And I think we've yet to see a starport from both players. But not only that, though. I mean, we saw him go in with a couple. There we go. He's gonna be preparing that right now. We saw people going in there, but there was just too many vultures here, and he wasn't able to do any kind of damage. So we're in response to that, we're gonna be seeing that expansion coming out of Pitbull right here. And I'm just interested why we don't see a follow-up in the starport right now. Just because there's a lack of Marines here, it could do so much damage. There's not gonna make Goliath out for a little while. I mean, until they see starports coming out. And I don't know. I mean, they just could drift off the tank production for a while anyway. Just giving him more time. Getting that air dominance is never a bad thing. And we're seeing a lot of Spider-Mons coming out of.
I find it quite amusing how the yellow is named Icarus, and yet he refuses to have any form of aircraft. I think that is quite funny.
Well, no, the map's called Icarus.
The map is called Icarus.
Yeah,
the player was called Icarus.
No, this is Pitbull, this is Lime, and this is the map is Icarus.
Oh, we have seen no aircraft, so
yeah.
I still find it hilarious.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. To my knowledge, I mean, you just bring down when we're saying vulture on vulture attacking over here, there's so many spider mines everywhere, but vultures don't blow up spider mines apparently. But I mean, just look at the minimap. Like, it looks like there's so much stuff, but there's actually not. And anyway, apparently a lag spike happening there for the players, but I feel like if he just had a starport right here, he could just go down here and he could just start harassing the mineral line here, which not only makes them get up an engineering bay, missile turrets, potentially even getting up to Goliath faster than they'd like to, because we're seeing 5 factory to the 2 factory, but we're seeing a lot more tank production right now. We're seeing about 4, which is not bad versus any kind of vultures per se, but he just wants to be careful not to run into spider mines, as they are everywhere. I literally don't see how he's gonna be able to deal with all these spider mines and tanks.
Well, he's gonna have to clear them out.
Yeah, and he's gonna have to scan. He's gonna have to
go all Hurt Locker up in here.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, once he realizes there's like 1,000 spider mines everywhere, this is probably when he's probably gonna want to get spider mines over here. But I guess tanks can one shot. Yeah, you can come in. Sure, go for it. Go get some ice, pizza.
Yes.
And but I feel like we should be seeing a starport coming down, like to compensate for the. Well, I mean, other than he's completely losing all of his tanks right here, which he doesn't want to have happen. Why would he do that? No!
Well, as soon as he saw the spider mines go out, he should have pulled his tanks back. Being like, okay, I need to set them up, siege them up on the ramp, maybe hold it as a choke point, and then clear out these mines. But why would he set them up there? That's not the idea.
It really doesn't make sense, but he's killing off 2 of his tanks, though, which is definitely a nice little victory here. But, I mean, at the same time, these vultures are going to be able to close the distance.
Was it really worth it? I mean...
No, it wasn't worth it for Pitbull to go in there, for sure. That was kind of a silly way to go in there. He should have scanned. He should have figured out, well, there's a lot of spider mines there. That's going to slow my retreat when he counter pushes, which of course he's going to have. I mean, unless he's really bad, he's going to have units. So, I think Pitbull should have realized, well, hey, there's a lot of spider mines there, and he really shouldn't have gone for it. But more importantly to the fact is that Pitbull needs to get up, I feel like, a starport which he's finally getting, just to get the science facility out, or science vessel, just because they're detectors, so he doesn't have to burn off scans so much.
It appears they're sending a northern attack with Voltadors. They seem to be surrounding him, so he cannot escape without taking serious damage, which is a huge advantage because they realize he does not have. He only has one expand, so if they can bottleneck him in, and we saw this with Topaz versus Wallace as well. He used his spider mines to his advantage, and it really did end up winning the game for Topaz, and I feel it's going to win the game for Lime as well.
And for Lime, I mean, it's just playing it so well right now. He has such good map control. He exactly knows when his opponent's gonna be pushing out. The only thing he could do is any kind of Wraith play, which I mean I don't feel like he's gonna be going because one of these is probably gonna be a science. No, I guess it's not. It looks like he might be going Wraith potentially, but he needs to get up that science facility up eventually to get those science vessels out. But we're seeing upgrades. We're seeing a third base, and yet he even took the base expanding to his opponent, which you don't normally see. But we'll be seeing CLaW, or we'll be seeing Wraith, or what will we be seeing?
It appears that Lime is playing much more aggressively now, and Pitbull is definitely second-guessing his earlier strategy of just a sort of a brute force assault, which has
which hurts you because when the aggressive standpoint's never. I mean, I like being really aggressive, and you know, looking back, it's not the most how should you say safe strategy. Because if it doesn't work, you're just sometimes you just have to GG quit.
Watching these siege tanks go through these mines is like trying to see immigrants getting past American border.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It doesn't. It's not a good thing. But TVT is gonna end up being a lot of siege lines and stuff. He just has to be careful because I mean these spider mines are still going down.
He's trying to clear out the northern part so he can sneak by and perhaps get a northern expand because that's his only place left to go. He's not going to go behind his enemy's base, and if he can get a northern expand, he may still be in this. But it appears that Lime is going for his own northern expand, or maybe
or checking for one.
He might just be checking, but he's denying it with spider mines. Not a bad idea actually.
Yeah, and there's just like I mean. Things are not looking good for Pitbull right now. We just saw that really the game-changing thing is that he lost that main army here, and then those vultures were able to contain for quite some time here. He has his natural up, but that extra base, especially in a mirror match, plays such a big difference. And we're finally seeing Wraith production around 12 minutes in the game.
It's a long time coming because his only real advantage here is if he can get aircraft, he could do major damage to siege tanks, which cannot attack at all, and he can clear out once he gets science vessels, he can clear out the vulture mines. If he can get those wraiths down, he could be in a very good situation and might be able to take back the game. However, should Lime get wraiths of his own or another form of or maybe anti-aircraft, it will mean nothing at all.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing is like I was talking about. I think in the first cast is when you're one basing, or last cast, your main gets mined out much quicker. I mean, he's finally trying to put down his third. He's been able to set up this kind of like this small perimeter.
Yes, third up north. I'm not sure how well this is going to go because Lime has been very good about patrolling the areas, and all the other places it seems that he has mined, and he's definitely going to check at some point. So he should probably get some sort of defense in front of that third expand.
That's what he has. I mean, somehow he's
something a little bit more direct, I suppose.
He's found like this little area over here where he can fit units behind before getting blown into shreds by these tanks.
Okay, well so now you have a World War I standard thing. You have two lines of enemies. Yeah. Neither one is going to charge because they cannot, because if those siege tanks become unsieged and charge the other ones, they're going to be blown to pieces. It's very much like World War I. That's why they need wraiths. Wraiths will be the deciding factor that will eventually be able to win this. Just like the development of sophisticated aircraft changed the outcome of World War I to World War II. You did not see a lot of trench combat in World War II because the airplanes could just destroy them and the ground infantry could do nothing about it.
Yeah, and that's true. And except there's a lot of charts here, so vultures are going to instantly melt. So I mean, I guess just in response to this, if he realizes that, he should really stop production of wraiths because they can't really do much. Because once the Goliaths are out, they just wreck any kind of wraiths just because the wraiths don't really do any kind of purpose that you need about probably around like 20 to 1 shot a siege tank, which really does too much. I mean, looking at this damage, they do 24 damage for their full damage if they, I believe, wraiths are light.
If I'm correct, wraiths do have stealth mode, yes? Am I correct?
Yes, but he should have turrets up eventually, or he can just scan. He should have his his comsat station scan on hotkey, so he should be able to scan instantaneously when they're being attacked. And the Wraith really aren't really that good of an investment. Continuing to produce them would be a bad thing, which he's not. He's making dropships.
What might not be a bad idea is a battle cruiser. Maybe just one. Maybe just to put
battle cruiser.
But the thing is, that would be the head of his army. That way he could sort of, because what now? He's just. It seems that Lime has just limited all of his options. He just cannot move anywhere. But with one battle cruiser, he may be able to just push through that line just enough to get his army and do some damage.
Well, here we're just seeing a lot of draw play coming right here, and it's kind of worked, kind of not really got one Goliath out in general before the rest of them did get taken out there. He doesn't actually realize that there's a Goliath.
He's throwing the numbers at it, definitely, but he does have some microing ability.
Yeah, but the main problem, I mean, he's there trying to go with this. Look how fast those die. And that's only 4 Goliaths right there. We're seeing +1. We're seeing an upgrade advantage. He's attacking the 3rd now, which is going to be slightly defended with 1 tank. But there's going to be 2 tanks. Might be able to bring up another tank here. 2 more tanks should be able to siege up fairly quickly.
He was looking for aircraft defense far more than infantry defense, which was his major undoing. Because look, he has 3 missile turrets. He does not need that many.
Well, the main problem is that we're seeing is a 3 base, or more like a 2 base, because the main.
He will be able to hold off the 3rd base, but he's definitely shaken up after that assault. He lost a sizable portion of his army. Although he did slay many of the enemies, it may not have been worth it.
This is like a repeat what we saw between.
It is very much like a repeat of what we saw between Topaz and Wallace, because although the difference is.
But
well, yes, but also the difference is Lime also has a fair amount of micro ability as well. He's not just throwing resources at him, although he does have a slight amount of micro ability, which we did not see in Topaz, which could have been his only undoing. Pitbull has very, very nice micro ability, but he has no macro ability.
Yeah, and what we're seeing though is we're going to be seeing Lime going to be pushing up this 3rd. It's going to be kind of hard to push up with a small ramp with 4 tanks shelling at it, but it looks like he's just going to be able to break through this. But the problem is he's sitting back on 2 base here. If you guys haven't noticed, I've been clicking on this part of the map for quite some time. He has gotten 3 more bases, finally transferring over more. He's been macroing so efficiently right here. He has an upgrade advantage. I think he might even have a 2nd armory.
It's remarkable because Pitbull cannot, no matter how many of the enemy he kills, there will always be 3 more to take its place. And he seems to be microing very well. But the problem is, it's just not enough. He has far too many enemies to kill.
Yeah, the positioning really hasn't been that great. And did you see that one Spider-Man completely take out all those Goliaths? It's kind of crazy.
He does not have a science vessel. It's going to be his downfall. He needs to get those SCVs out of there, or if perhaps he could take this army down here and maybe bring him up and flank the assaulting army on his 3rd base. Only problem is there's still those spider mines out there, so he cannot surround them and then slaughter them. He has to just sit and wait.
Yeah, and I really don't see. I think we should be better off just GG, because I mean, like, what can a 2 base Terran do against like a 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, like 6 base Terran? And also keep in mind, look, the main's completely mined out, and he's still mining. I mean, he only has 4 SCVs, 6 SCVs mining minerals, but this is still being operated right here. That's just 1 more base.
Yes, he has 5 bases operational.
6 actually.
6 bases operational. It's insane. He's just choking them.
Yeah.
It's the only thing he can do is put 1 final push and hope that he does some damage. And quite frankly,
it just wouldn't work. He
can't win. That's all he can do. But I would like to see 1 final push. I would like to see Pitbull's microing ability really come into play here. And it appears those Goliaths are going to run right over those spider mines. That could be a problem.
But I think there's just so much firepower that, I mean, Spider-Mans are a lot better in the early game because there isn't just nearly as much stuff to attack them. But I mean, there's just gonna be too much stuff here. There's just, honestly speaking, I mean, there's these dropships, which is very, very nice coming out of.
Why did he not have siege tanks back there? He had lured him into a trap. He could have done a lot more damage than what he's doing now. It seems a little bit unrealistic to me.
But he's actually kind of using more advanced tactics from just killing those off. All he needs to do is, I mean, once he takes out one of these squads of tanks here, it plays such a big role. I don't know why he just lost 3 tanks, but that's kind of silly.
Well, that was because he sent them straight into the siege tank line, which was a very good tactic by Pitbull. Pitbull's microing ability is very good, but all he can do is kill them off in small quantities.
I think this is more like positioning, not micro ability.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, micro ability is about positioning. It's about changing your position constantly to suit your best. But his ability as a combat tactician is very good, but it's just not enough. He doesn't have the resources to finance this. and it's quite sad.
Yeah, I mean, we're also seeing the mobility just increasing for Lime right here, which is a big problem with Mac. But
unlimited.
Yeah, but now he has these dropships here, which is just gonna be able to do a lot of damage here. But this going to Spider-Mines will be enough, but that's such a huge drop. That's gonna be such a doom drop. Now this main base is under fire. Yeah, I
mean,
don't
he's got siege tanks. He's got nothing. He doesn't have. If he moves those troops back, he loses his defensive advantage, and if he can't spawn more troops, it's over for him.
And once the production goes down, it's gonna be pretty hard to deal with it.
I mean, it's not like he was using the main base that much in any case, but
that's where all of his production facilities are. But he has a somewhat decent position there. We're seeing 4 more factories going down, even though he's maxed. And this is just kind of the crazy shenanigans what the 6 base Terran can go for. And he's even
right now he's just messing with him.
Yeah, he
wants to play. He's having fun.
There's the G, and then there's the GG by Lime right there, skzlime. And that was a pretty interesting game. And I think, well, it just, you know, not to say that was not well played by Pitbull. It's just like that aggression point. He overextended himself. He went for a lot of one base.
And also, don't forget, at the very beginning of the match, he failed to find out. Lime found him right at the beginning. It took him like 5 tries to figure it out, and that definitely gave him a disadvantage.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what he's doing, and yet he went for an aggressive point where he didn't really know what his opponent was going. So just say, for example, he was going for like a one base play that would have looked a lot worse. But the problem is that he was running into a Spider-Mine, which when he was retreating, they just hit him. He had to stall, he had to attack that, which gave just more time for his units to come up, for Lime's units just to come up and kill that main army, which ultimately allowed Lime to take and expand, set up a contain, and when you're contained in TVT, it's really hard to break out of because there's 20 tanks. And how do you break that? You need to have late game dropships like what we saw in the late game. But it's just really hard to deal with it, or you just send in a lot of units and just hope that you can get out of there. But
I mean, that's the thing about TVT, is that once you have the perfect combination of units, it's hard to counter.
Yeah. No, it wasn't in any matchup. It's really hard to once you're so far ahead.
If they have the vultures and siege tanks, the zealots can do a fair amount of damage to that. Yeah. However, the Terran do not have anything other than aircraft, which he was well defended against because he had all those missile darts. It was just.
Yeah. Well, it's just one. There's a balance point to the point where you could try to make where you're not super far behind, but once there's like 10 turrets out, I mean the one problem is where the balance comes in. So for example, you know, when you have that unstoppable force, when you have 10 siege tanks, 10 Goliaths, and like 20 vultures, that's like your front door, and say that's like a rush that someone has 12 minutes of the game. Now keep in mind that would look a lot different after when you're 20 minutes in the game, because now they're going to have a lot more units back at their base. Now if you're a Protoss or a Terran, with that scenario, when they're kind of outside base, all you have to do is just do a counter drop on the main base, and then what can they do? They force a base trade.
You force them to be defensive.
Yeah, but here, when you're just so far behind, you can't do that, and that's not because it's not balanced per se. It's just because he was so far behind, he just lost. He couldn't take expand.
The major problem with Pitbull's strategy is that he failed to see his advantage in discovering all that open space up in the northern part of the map. He failed to have an expand up there. If he had one up there,
he did, but he got countered.
No. I mean, yes.
At the 12 o'clock.
Earlier in the game is what I mean.
Yeah, but it was hard for him because that he had such a contain on. He took that third base. Fair. I mean, it was a little slower, but I mean, the problem is you want to make sure that he just didn't die outright because he needed to produce units. He needed to know when to fit that expand. He needed to find. He was contained for a while, and he needed to break through that contain. Eventually speaking, but that contain never really.
There was really nothing you could do.
Yeah. Once that the game changer is when he lost that main army, he just didn't have the tanks to help to counter the amount of tanks that Lime had. So we'll go on to game number 2. We saw Disturbed Minds lose game number 1 series, but game number 1 in this series number 5. Guys, thanks for watching and have a nice day.